Protect your DNA. BioBQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Welcome to tonight's Infowars Nightly News. The date is Wednesday, May 6, 2015. I'm Rob Dew. I'm joined here by Joe Biggs, and we're going to get to him in 1 second. We have breaking news now. The sleeping giant has awoken. It is without a doubt that the people of the United States are awake. They're aware of what's going on. And there's no more proof that I can offer you than what just was put out today by C-SPAN, a total psyop hit piece. Here's the title, U.S. Army Asymmetric Warfare Training Center. I encourage you to go watch this 50-minute video. It's an interview with Colonel John Pekosik, commander of the U.S. Army Asymmetrical Warfare Group at Fort A.P. Hill, Virginia. Does that sound familiar? Talked about a 300-acre facility which opened in 2014 and the types of training troops receive and how it might be applied overseas. Joe, what do you think of that? You've been to this training facility.
Well, quite frankly, I'm kind of disgusted by the fact that I went through the proper channels. I went to the front gate. I signed and got a pass to go in there for myself and David Knight, and we were detained and not allowed to be able to go there again. Because
you aren't the vetted mainstream psyop media. C-SPAN sent a whole camera crew down there to tape this interview, and it is a clear psyop piece. It is clear whitewashing what goes on at AP Hill. I mean, just from the very beginning, the outset, they even show pictures of the church and like, this is for training overseas. Have you ever seen a church like that anywhere overseas?
Negative. I mean, that's a no. But one of the funniest things for me in this whole thing is he says they built this because of the Afghanistan conflict.
They said it was designed during the Afghanistan conflict. That's when they started to build it.
For them to train soldiers to go over and fight in Afghanistan.
And now, you were at this desk earlier today talking to David Knight about the same thing. And that's about when I saw this. I saw this video piece. We had a listener send it to us. Leanne McAdoo mentioned she saw it in the break room, and I grabbed it and I started watching it. I could not believe the massive psyop that's going on with this colonel, just like blatantly lying.
I mean, he's blatantly lying. He's the same puppet, just like Lieutenant Colonel Mark Lastory was. That came down to Bastrop to talk about Jade Helm. The same BS bullet points that were fed to them by some government official at the Pentagon. Just horrible.
Yeah.
But the greatest thing is I'm so glad they allowed callers to call into this event, so to say, and talk about some of their concerns about it.
And we're gonna get to these callers in 1 second, but first, I want everybody out there to listen. Just hear his words here in the beginning. This is his explanation for this facility. This is why they have it out there, and you know, you could just be the judge if you agree with what he says. So here's the first minute or so of the piece.
Here to join us to talk about the center and its mission is Colonel John Pekosik. He is the commander of the U.S. Army Asymmetric Warfare Group. Colonel, thanks for joining us. Welcome to C-SPAN.
Pedro, thank you for having me.
Can you tell us about the buildings behind us, what we're seeing, what the purpose is?
Sure, Pedro. Well, what I'd like to do is just kind of put it into context in terms of why we have the training center here today. Is the Asymmetric Warfare Group provides operational advisory support and solution development for the Army and Joint Force commanders. And really what that means is four things for the service. We provide operational advisors all around the world, wherever U.S. forces are deployed. We do that to identify capability gaps. Ultimately, we develop solutions for those gaps and then integrate those back in the Army system. And that's what this facility is really designed for. It's a place to develop solutions for the Army. In addition, it serves a secondary role as an Army training center.
So these buildings behind us, they're life-size, they're realistic, but they're fake in a sense, but they're meant for training.
Exactly, exactly. I recall, I mean, the Army's always looked at the need to have a diverse places to train, and in the past I recall we had training areas that were simple concrete buildings, but they didn't really provide the texture that you need to get that realistic training that our soldiers need today. So as you can see, the buildings behind us have glass and windows and doors and desks and plants, all those kind of things that our soldiers will encounter.
A lot of type of different buildings too on the campus. Give us a feel of what we'll find. I know that we're viewing an embassy behind us and some apartment buildings, but you have some other structures here as well.
Roger. What we do see, Pedro, is the the place is really designed to be able to change, to adapt to whatever environment our soldiers might be in. So there's a 6-story building out there that may be an embassy one day, it may be a hotel another day, it may be a warehouse another day. So we can change the settings to meet the kind of environments that our soldiers are going to face. And what we're trying to do is provide a place that can serve as a variety of training areas so that we can get the most utility for it.
So the psyop they keep giving you is that it's for anywhere around the world, even though when you look at this facility and you look at the buildings and the way it's designed, the buses that are there, the subterranean, the subway
Tunnels
system
and the tunnel
with
system.
signs in English everywhere. There's
See, that's
signs
the
in
thing, though,
English.
is how has this got a multi-purpose use? This is a singular purpose use for here in America.
Yeah.
There's no multi-purpose to this because none of the signs are in Arabic. None of them are in any other language. It's Washington, D.C.
It's street signs that have English writing in them.
It's the same.
subway
It's the same
stations that have-
stoplight systems
Yeah.
that we use here in America only. The same types of roadways, the same types of schools, buildings. When you go to Iraq and Afghanistan, you have clay huts.
Right.
I mean, only in a very few minute, small little areas in Afghanistan do you actually have some well-structured buildings. To an extent, nothing compared to what you see here at Fort AP Hill. At this size and scale, this is small-time America. This is small-town America. We have Jade Helm happening.
In small town America.
Yeah, in
all
small-town
over the
America.
country.
You know, we've got Thomas Meade coming out saying, oh, this is going to be used, you know, these soldiers are going to be undercover. You know, they're going to be in civilian attire, driving civilian vehicles. You know, if you spot them, then they're not doing their job right. You know, meanwhile, we have these asymmetric warfare training centers like Fort AP Hill that go along with what it is we're saying, the fears of the American people. What's going on? That's why we're asking questions. That's why we're bringing this to the forefront of conversation right now. This is why CNN, Fox, C-SPAN, NPR, everyone's coming down at this because the people, like you said, this is a mass awakening.
It's an awakening. The sleeping giant has awoken, and there's no better way to tell in these callers. The first caller, Herbie from Mississippi, sounds like a 50, 60-year-old black man. And just the way he talks, he says, it looks like it's secret training. It looks like you're trying to take over cities and fight our own people. It looks like you're going to invade the inner city. And it looks like this is for right here in America. Let's go to this call right now. You can hear it for yourself. I mean, we're going to show you all the calls. I cannot believe that they even put this out on the web. I mean, it is just such a validation of everything we have been saying.
Exactly.
So here's the first caller.
Good morning, C-SPAN. Yes, these buildings look like the United States building because, you know, the way the police are throwing black people in the inner cities and the uprising that we're having here in America, it looks like we're getting to fight against our own people here. And it looks like y'all are training to more or less invade the inner city or, you know, it's mighty strange because everybody's training to do something overseas. And it doesn't look like overseas training. It looks like this is right here in America. And it's kind of scary because of the situation where we can't get police locked up for what they're doing to civilians and the stuff that's going on here in America. So it's it's kind of damaging. Y'all are doing something secretly here, I think.
Herbie, that's not really true. What we're doing is training U.S. soldiers to be able to operate in any contingency around the world. When you look at what U.S. Army soldiers do, they have to be able to operate along a contingency from disaster relief to high-end military conflict, and that's what the center is really designed for. It's to be able to replicate any environment that we might have to fight in. I mean, we, as we said earlier on, we are in Virginia, and that's where we live. I mean, we're U.S. soldiers. We're stationed in the United States, and so the center is located here, so it's convenient and easy to train on. But really, what you said is farthest from the truth. It's really, we want to be able to replicate any environment where our soldiers might be able to fight. As I'd said earlier, that we used to train in very rudimentary training facilities where it was these simple concrete buildings, and our soldiers really weren't prepared as well as they could have been by just adding a little bit of texture to make it as realistic as possible. Ultimately, this facility is designed to increase soldier survivability and save lives in combat, and that's what it's for. And I think that if we put it in that context, that's really what the U.S. Army is doing at this facility.
So that was the first caller. And before we go to a few of the other callers, I want to point out something. They start talking about the concrete tunnel system. The host is really engaged with these tunnels. He's like, oh, the tunnels, like you have 1,500 feet of tunnels in here. It's so amazing. You know, what is this used for? And the colonel says, well, that's for these drainage ditches in Afghanistan that we sometimes have to train and fight in. So we built, and they even show it on video, looks like concrete drainage system in your neighborhood. Okay, it doesn't look like anything in Afghanistan. Do you remember seeing concrete tunnels in Afghanistan?
I didn't see anything to that nature whatsoever. The closest thing I saw to something like any kind of water drainage system would be a dried up riverbed, what we call a wadi.
A wadi, yeah.
And it's just a giant dried up riverbed that would sometime flood if there was a flash flood miles away. Other than that, I never saw any kind of concrete tunnels, anything like that to that nature.
Well, let's listen to the colonel's explanation for it, because, you know, he's the authority. He's wearing the uniform. We have to listen to everything he says. We're stupid Americans. We don't know what's going on. So anytime they throw a psyop in our face, we should just agree with them. So here's that video right now.
I think one of the best ones that you talked about was, you know, the tunnels or the subterranean piece. And what we realized earlier on is you see the environment around the world. Sometimes you see some continuity there. When we originally designed this facility, we were heavily engaged in Afghanistan, and at the time, the soldiers faced these karezes, which are these water drain systems, and they had to understand how to go down into those, how to fight in those things. So it started off in that way. But when you look at the subterranean threat, and you look at other places around the world where that can apply, is you look at bunkers where chemical weapons might be stored in a country that you've got to recover, like in Syria, where they took them out and destroyed them. Somebody's got to be able to go in there and do that. Or so the subterranean threat is one that you might see anywhere around the world. And those are just two locations that you might see that.
So the basic psyop is, they keep saying over and over again, anywhere in the world. In fact, I think you can make that into a drinking game. Every time they say anywhere in the world, you take a shot, and you would be wasted by the end of this 1 hour psyop piece put out by C-SPAN.
Well, is America anywhere in the world?
I think America is in part of the world. I think it's right there in the contained within the world. We're part of North America.
So it's kind of funny how they say it's
for anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So it could be for anywhere in the world. Like they say, they mentioned Ebola in Africa. That doesn't look like an African village.
I mean, have you seen all the videos, the reports of people going out, these Doctors Without Borders?
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen one large standing building, these churches, subway systems? No, you see these old,
it's a village,
rundown third world shanties.
Yeah.
It makes no sense whatsoever. And then they go on to say the earthquake in Nepal.
Yeah, Nepal.
I mean,
it looks like nothing.
Are
like
all
Nepal.
those buildings going to collapse or something, and then they're going to have to go through rubble? I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so that's anywhere in the world. That's America. Hello.
It's
here.
It's laughable.
That's why it looks like our backyard. That's why it looks like when you drive up and down the street, there's a church, there's a soccer field. The same stuff you see here is anywhere around the world. That's why they don't specifically say it.
And the reason they put this piece out is to try and pacify everybody, to claim, oh, well, the authority figures have come out and said it's okay, so we have to believe them. I want to go to the second caller now. This is John in Pennsylvania. So we went from Mississippi, now we're going up to Pennsylvania, clear across the country, okay? John's also concerned. You know, John sounds like a good old boy. He talks about seeing video with men in John Deere caps saying, please don't take my guns, which we've seen in Richmond, where they weren't taking guns, but they were saying, I'm a sovereign citizen, and they get rushed.
Yeah, so I go through the proper channels, like always, like we do, to go out there to get a media pass. He tells me I'm going to be able to go. Then I guess he does research and finds out what Infowars is and the fact that we're against this military takeover. We're against the militarization of police and denies me access.
I've got one that can see.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to get rid of
the glasses on.
Yeah.
But they blatantly lie and go, this is a dirty bomb drill. But like you just said, they're going out there to take guns and to put people who are like sovereign citizens in camps.
Well, the 3%ers, they were bringing in trucks that said 3%er on them, okay? And then the guy says, I'm a sovereign citizen, I don't believe in you, or something to that effect. And then they get rushed by the mob. And then we saw that Marine training where they said, well, this could be for an embassy. But, you know, we all know what's coming down. Fort Lauderdale, rounding up citizens in the street, is not getting ready for Nepal or an earthquake somewhere or Africa, Ebola. No, they're all preparing everybody for fear. So let's go to, this is John in Pennsylvania, and he's concerned about gun confiscation.
And he also brings up the fact that, hey, they took our guns in Katrina. What makes us think that this is not going to happen again?
There you go. Let's go to the clip.
Hi. I'm concerned like the last caller. I saw videos of your facility on the internet. I saw videos of individuals in John Deere caps saying, please don't take my guns, and other military training exercises that have been videotaped and have been put on the internet. Now, what safety or what do we have to guarantee us that these training facilities aren't being used to confiscate our guns in case of another economic meltdown like we had in 2008. That like the gun confiscation that went on in Katrina. The U.S. troops from Afghanistan walked the streets of New Orleans and confiscated every gun that was there. What do we have to guarantee that we will be protected from that not happening in mass like it did in Katrina? Thousands of guns were confiscated by regular Army and by National Guard units.
Well, I can't speak about what happened in Katrina, but what I can say is, you know, I know that everything on the internet is not necessarily true as we see it. And really, when you come back to what the facility is designed for and what we do here, we share it very openly. There's no secrets to be had. When you talk about what protects us, well, you know, the United States Constitution is what protects us, and that's what the U.S. Army is here for, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I would hope that all of our you know, our listeners and viewers out there would appreciate what our soldiers are doing for us on a day-to-day basis. It's really the opposite of what the caller had articulated. It's really to protect the United States.
All right, I want to get through a couple more of these callers really quick. I kind of want to keep this piece contained. You need to get this out. This is a breaking bulletin. This just came out today. Everybody needs to go watch it. You need to go comment on it. You need to spread this around all over the place. U.S. Army Asymmetric Warfare Training Center on cspan.org. You could just do a search. There's the title right there. Do a search for it. We're going to put it in the bottom of the description of the
Also,
video.
look up the location. You can get the number, their PIO, their public information officer. Troll them. Call them. Ask them why this is happening. Why is this happening in our country?
Be a liberty troll.
Yeah, go out there and ask questions. I want you to ask so many questions and call them so much that their lines shut down, that they're not able to use the internet because we broke the internet there for them.
Yeah.
Everyone in America should be pissed off about this stuff. You know, this is out of control. Call them, email them, get on their Facebook. They've got Facebook pages. Get out there and ask them questions why this is going on. Because all these callers are saying that they are concerned about this, much like everyone is about Jade Helm.
And they're all dismissed every time with this pretty much the same answer. Our third caller, Lenny in Arizona. This is a lady that asked the colonel how he feels about Jade Helm. And he says he's not familiar with the exercise. Apparently he hasn't been watching the news at all, because that's all everybody's talking about, how we're crazy that we think that it's weird that special forces want to train here on our soil.
If you get on the internet, on social media, or turn on the TV to a mainstream media source, you will hear a story hitting us.
Usually a hit piece.
Yeah, a hit piece about us, about our investigating into this and what it is.
And if you think a colonel in the Army doesn't have a report on this by now and isn't aware that the same people that broke this story about Jade Helm were also at his little Fort AP Hill covering that. Remember the entrance to Fort AP Hill? How'd you feel about driving? They show the nice sign in the beginning, the entrance. Yeah. Remember the sign you went through? It looked like something out of Mad Max.
Yeah, I mean,
that entrance.
I had goosebumps going through that place because, you know, you hear about stuff like this, you see videos on the internet, but until you're actually there, you see the size and scale of this area, much like the size and scale of the Jade Helm operation coming up. It is unsettling.
Yeah.
And this is something that luckily we're able to get out, bring to the attention of the American people, and shut it down.
Yeah, use your First Amendment while you have it. Use Infowars while you have it. I mean, we're a resource here. We provide all this stuff for you, especially if you got a Prison Planet TV membership. You can download these videos. Even if we're shut off YouTube, you could still go onto our own network and download stuff and get it out to people. You know, you could put take our videos and put them on YouTube yourself. We don't care. We just want to get the word out. Let's go to our third caller, Lenny, and let's listen to the Colonel's reaction and answer to what he says about Jade Helm.
Yes, good morning, Colonel. I wanted to alert our citizens and to get an explanation, if we could, for an exciting military training called Jade Helm 15, which is all over the internet. I guess it involves 10 states, and there's going to be civilians participating in towns like Big Spring, Texas. Could you explain the magnitude of that and what the purpose of that is? And apparently you're going to have crisis actors, and there are going to be soldiers dressed in uniform and not in uniform, and apparently it's very exciting. Could you explain that to us? Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, it's not something that I'm familiar with, so I can't really explain that. But I do know that those type of things are things that we do here, where we get our soldiers the opportunity to work within an environment where there are civilians and soldiers. As a matter of fact, one of the things I could talk about is that, unfortunately, I just don't know about that particular exercise. But when you talk about soldiers operating within an environment where there's civilians, one of the things we're looking at here at Fort AP Hill is a program of using on autonomous robots. Essentially what we do is we've taken a number of robots that can operate independently, walk up and down these streets. We can dress some up in uniforms, we can dress some up in civilians clothes, and we can use that as a chance here at AP Hill to train our soldiers how to discriminate between friendly forces, forces that may be evacuated, and that's just one of those great things that we're able to do at AP Hill. Again, I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar with that exercise.
So and that was the third caller. They were opening the lines up for people. It seems like the only people that care are real Americans who are really concerned about issues that we think people should be concerned about, because this is a long stand. This didn't just happen this year. It's not like, oh, you know, the police are giving out NRAPs and stuff. That all didn't just happen this year. This has been a long-standing goal. And it starts with the UN, how they want to come in and confiscate guns here eventually. That's what's going to happen. That's
they even put out some applications or some job opportunities for position in New York for just that.
Well, and then you got the Army putting out the internment resettlement specialist. It's right there. And you can see they're looking for people to run internment camps.
See, that's the thing, though. We don't just come up with these ideas. We don't just conjure these ideas up. We actually go, we find the facts. Someone sends in a document that we haven't seen. We go, we research it ourselves, just like with the Jade Helm thing. They said they denied that those slides ever existed, but yet when you went to SOCOM and you went and looked at their website,
it's right there.
They're right there, clearly stating suspicious activity, helicopters at night, all this stuff going on. And meanwhile, they bring in their psyop puppet, their Lieutenant Colonel Mark Lastoria. Oh no, that's not happening at all. Meanwhile, it's in their slide.
Yeah,
this is all a giant psyop. It has to stop. But like we said, that's what this entire piece is about, is a mass awakening.
Right, exactly. Because they're putting out the propaganda, but what was being countered by was real, hardworking, thinking Americans who are like, you know what, we're sick and tired of this. This is total BS. We're calling you out on it now. And I love it that C-SPAN actually puts this stuff out. But what I love even more is the reaction to the American people, the sleeping giant awakening.
I wonder how many people who didn't call in
feel the same way.
Or are scared and had no idea about this whatsoever, or going like, man, what is going on?
That's the city. That's an American city.
Yeah, I see that too.
That looks like my church.
Exactly. How many people are thinking that right now? How many people are going to come and look at this? Once we get this out, people are going to wake up in even larger numbers.
We're going to skip the fourth caller. It was Paul from Florida, who kind of takes a Ron Paul position of talking about blowback. We're going around being the policeman of the world, and that's going to bring us repercussions, which we've already seen. That's kind of old news. But I encourage you to watch the whole thing. Fifth caller, Justin from California. He goes, I agree with all the other callers.
Yeah.
That this is scary stuff, and it looks like an American city, not other countries. But he also wants the people of America to wake up that this is the new U.S. military and that they might be preparing to take on their very own people. And the colonel responds saying that nobody should think this is scary.
I mean, that's a good point. This is the new U.S. military. We have transitioned from moving around to these OCONUS theaters of operation, and things are starting to heat up more on the CONUS side here in America, here in the continental U.S. You know, we already have ISIS in America. We had this attack in Garland, Texas. You know, they named 5 states, 3 of which are in the top 10 strictest gun law states. You know, Michigan, which is right there at the Great Lakes where ISIS could come over. James O'Keefe showed that. You know, all this stuff is coming together right now. There's a massive awakening happening, and people aren't happy, and they do not trust what the government is putting out.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in Bastrop, people were yelling out, hey, man, this is a psyop. You guys are just trained to try to help quell the people who are still asleep. Everyone who's awake understands that this is complete and total BS.
Yeah, and you can't, in the bottom line, you can't trust known liars. How many times has the federal government lied to us? Because, well, you know, it's always, well, if we just do it this way, you just go along with us, it'll be okay. We're sick of going along with you. You've run the economy, you've let the bankers take over, and you're not looking out for us. You let Monsanto just run rampant on the environment. I mean, we have to put a stop to it somehow. Or nothing's going to change. So we're going to go to the last caller here, Justin from California. You need to watch this. And then we're going to go to break after that. I don't really have anything more to say on this other than you need to get this out to everybody you know, okay? Because you don't just need to watch the psyop piece by itself, although you'll be able to watch that. You can go watch, but listen to our commentary and start, let your own wheels turn. See if you think we're crazy or not. We're also, during this, we were putting up footage of the Fort AP Hill footage we shot. Now, that was that Joe Biggs and David Knight went out and shot. It was last year.
About a year ago.
Been about a year. Yeah. And they got detained at the end. I mean, it was ridiculous. They freaked out that we went up there and shot that footage. But now they're not so afraid of it because now they're controlling the narrative. That's how it works. So you need to do your research into this and let everybody know what's going on. We're going to go to this fifth caller. This is Justin from California, and then we're going to go to break, and we'll be back here with Jakari Jackson, you're going to stay, right? You got more to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about ISIS in America and some more Jade Helm news.
Hey, you're watching the Infowars Nightly News. It is not scripted. There's no teleprompter there, and that's thanks to your support, because it's because your support that we can do all this here. PrisonPlanet.tv. Please consider get your membership. We'll be right back after our caller here, and then go on a break.
I got to reflect what a lot of the callers have said today, and as I'm watching the program now, this is just very scary stuff. This looks almost like Western or American cities rather than being prepared for what we're going to face out in other countries. And, the colonel has said we've got to be prepared for this and all of that. This is almost every caller, and the people that are listening right now, I think, understand that this is a very scary and new thing that the military looks like it's going to be taking on that could be against its very own people, American people. Everything I've seen except for this one mosque has been in English. It says Main Street. Main Street.
Okay, we'll let our guest respond, caller.
What I'd say is it is a very complicated world out there, and you shouldn't find it scary or frightening. You should find it reassuring that that we're training our soldiers to be able to operate across a broad spectrum of facilities. When I had said I've been in the Army a little bit of time, and when I first come in, we spent all our time walking through the woods, learning how to fight in the wood line, how to navigate with a map and compass in areas like that, and then come to realize when we were called by our nation to perform a mission, we were operating in an urban center, and how we did that, whether it was us helping soldiers or our soldiers operating in the current or the conflicts that we most recently operated in, all of those were in an urban environment where we had to learn how to operate in and among where people are, because really the U.S. military, as we operate across the world, there are enemy forces, and they mix themselves in with friendly forces all the time. And as the robot example that I gave up, we need to be able to have our soldiers discriminate between what's friendly and what's enemy. When I was growing up in the Army, one of the things they always used to say about our soldiers is, hey, a soldier is really doing the right thing when they do the right thing when nobody's watching them. And that was really how you said, hey, our soldiers are really disciplined and doing the right thing. Well, as the world has changed, now what we have to be able to ask our soldiers to do is do the right thing when the whole world is watching.
A chemical spill contaminating the water supply in 9 West Virginia counties.
What are the health effects of having these drugs in our drinking water?
It's forced medical treatment without the consent of residents.
My friends, water filtration is one of the most basic actions you can take to protect you and your family from the harmful toxins and heavy metals in your tap water.
On average, the county says it sprays with the glyphosate at least once a week.
Few filters cut out the glyphosates that is found in water supplies worldwide. Remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, hydrofluorosilicic acid, sodium hexafluorosilicate.
Fluoride is in tea, it's in coffee, it's in water, it's in bread, it's in toothpaste.
It is our responsibility to protect our families. The establishment's not going to do it. It's time to take action. It's time to filter our water.
Go to InfoWarsStore.com today, and for a limited time, use the promo code WATER20 and get 20% off all ProPure products. Again, that's InfoWarsStore.com, or give our crew a call at 888-253-3139.